talk about this. This is getting around Auckland Transport. More than 43,000 cars a year are coming into the city. I want to ask you first, how do you get around? How did you get here, David Seymour?
Oh, I came down by the train.
Train?
Yeah, it's the thing that goes on tracks, metal tracks. And it stops just over there by Britomart. Yeah.
Do you take public transport much?
Yeah, time to time. Just depends where I'm going.
And how do you find it?
Oh, usually I use my Google Earth app and it takes me to the station.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think, Maturia? 800 cars every week. Does this mean that Auckland needs to reposition itself when it comes to transport?
Look, we know that it is public transport that is going to be the future for Auckland City. Yes, we do. It is the
How do
only
you know
option.
this, Maturia?
Your guy takes the train. Public transport. It's hilarious. Yeah, that's
What about
funny.
Jamie Lee Ross first? What about you? How did you get here?
I got here by car like 90% of my constituents would. This nirvana that everyone's going to jump onto bikes and trains and buses is not actually going to happen. We need to provide those options and provide those opportunities for people. But the reality is most Aucklanders use cars and most Aucklanders do need to see the roading infrastructure improve. I think as we see more apartment buildings, more density, we'll see more public transport options coming forward. But you can't just say only build train sets and busways and people will just use them. They won't.
That's a bit of a smart
We need
ass
to
comment.
provide
That's a bit
options.
of a smart ass answer though, isn't it? Because the fact of the matter is, you came by car because you had no other option from Botany. That's the reason why you did. If you had a good option, you might have.
Sure, and if we had 30 million people living in Auckland, we'd have a fantastic underground railway. We'd have a fantastic bus network. But we need to provide options to people. One of those options, though, is improving the roadways. I absolutely reject the Labour Party and the Green Party options of not investing in roads and only going to public transport. We need to do both.
Jacinda, you can say what you want, but Jamie's right. 90% of those people would have come by car.
Yeah, 90% of Jamie Lee Ross's constituents from Botany would have come by car because Botany has crap public transport options. It's absolutely true.
How did you get here?
Today I used public transport today, but to get here I used a vehicle. But I did use a ferry. I used a ferry today, and I have a bus that I use to get to work quite often as well.
All right, we'll come back.
But, you know, this is all about giving people choices, Wallace. And at the moment, the National Party is hell-bent on building more roads rather than giving public transport options.
Okay.
We're funding
You're
the city
wait,
rail.
no, wait.
Have you heard of the city
I want to
railway?
contest this.
Really?
Wallace,
Okay.
the budget does not have funding for the city rail link in it. The national government went to the SOT journey without, you have not funded it. It's not in the budget. It is not in the budget.
Just asking about the accounting.
The Amity project.
It's all talk.
I'll take your point.
They haven't funded it yet.
Okay. We got to
Count. The mayor raised it at the SOT journey.
Ty-ho. Shit.
Labour Party did.
Is this election year or something? Let's go to Hayley Holt.
Wallace, you can't shut them up, can you? I'm here with Chloe Swarbrick, Auckland's youngest mayoral candidate at 22. What on earth made you want to run for mayor?
Well, we were just talking off camera about the fact that I worked as a journalist for a few years, and in reporting on all of these issues, essentially to an audience who already agreed with me, I decided to shift into a position where I could actually do something about it, and in doing so, cause, I suppose, a little bit of controversy.
Can I ask you how you got here tonight?
By bus.
And do you think Auckland's transport, public transport, needs to be improved?
Definitely. I mean, I don't own a car, and I find it incredibly difficult to get anywhere. I am self-employed, and to get to meetings and things like that, I'm predominantly using Uber, which is a heck of a lot more expensive than if we actually had effective public transport.
Have you lived in any other great cities that sort of you think that Auckland could take some inspiration from?
Take some cues from. I've only lived in Wellington for 3 months, which, I wouldn't count as living there for any extended period of time. But I visited Melbourne, Berlin, and a lot of different places across Europe, which we can take a lot of lessons from, definitely.
Give us one example.
One example.
Say let's from Berlin, I imagine that is a city that runs like clockwork.
I didn't actually catch public transport in Berlin, but in Melbourne, definitely. Melbourne, I did catch the trams multiple times.
Now, what would you do to make Auckland great? I sound like Donald Trump. Make Auckland great again. But what would you do?
What would I do to make Auckland great? Well, I think that it's been raised here. The two main issues that Auckland are facing are housing and transport. So I would be focusing on fixing those. And my policies will be coming out later this week, so we can discuss those when they arise.
I can't wait to hear them. Thank you so much. Back to you, Wallace.
Fantastic game for 22. Awesome, round of applause. Nice one. You know, I mean, we wanted to get Len Brown, but we decided clothes available, so thank you very much for coming along. Why don't you... Hey, here's one thing that perhaps we are not doing. We're not counting the carbon emissions of Auckland City.
No,
Is that something that you think we should be doing?
Oh.
Measuring 1.5 billion people, what sort of carbon emissions do we do?
It would be useful to do at some point in order to identify particularly transport emissions versus other energy use. If there is a plan then to use that information to reduce those emissions. The first thing though is we need to make sure that government invests in public transport. They're planning to spend 4 times as much money on roads than they are on public transport in this city. And that is not okay. That is a way of locking people into their cars and keeping them on the outskirts of the city, and it's not going to work. We need decent public transport. It will reduce emissions, but more importantly, it will get families to where they need to go when they need to get there.
All right.